the Among Lionhearts podcast, where we dare to have moxie for what matters. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Julia, and we're your new loudmouth, change-making, do-gooder best friends here to embolden you to take more action, risk, and heart towards creating a more just, equitable, and brave world.
That's right. And if you are looking to live a better life, get out of survival mode and achieve higher goals, and preserve your long-term health so that you can actually enjoy these, then this is the episode for you.
I'm really excited about this episode about generosity and just how powerful it is. It actually really reminds me of this painting I saw at the art museum that I used to work at. I used to be a host at an event host at an art museum a couple of years back. And there was this incredible painting there that really got my attention and has stayed with me since then. And let me see if I can describe it for you just a little bit. It was about a large, probably like 5 foot by 5 foot painting. It was square, and it had a woman on the left side and the same painting of the woman on the right side. And it was almost the exact same painting on both sides, except for a few little things. Like the woman just was like shifted a little forward. Her head was just slightly bent a little bit more on the other side. And she was just like leaning on the couch a little bit. And like her foot was like tipped a little, just very, very small things. You could tell they were different, but they were basically essentially the same painting created into one painting. And, I saw it again, like a few weeks later as I was doing another event, and it just kept pulling my attention. And, that second time I looked at it, I was like, not sure what this painting is about, but I definitely like the right side better. Yeah, I think I like the right side better. And then I saw it again, I think like a few days later. And I was like, yeah, the right side is absolutely better. Like, why did he even do the left side? That side is garbage. Definitely the right side is really, really good. And I kept seeing that painting, and the more I saw it, like the more I just decided the right side was the superior one. And one day I just decided, okay, I've had enough of this. What is this painting that is haunting me? And I went over to the description and I started reading it. And I started laughing right there in the art museum because the name of the painting had something to do with comparison. And the artist goes on to describe how he created this painting to visually communicate how silly and toxic comparison was. And he goes, there's nothing wrong with either one of these paintings, but I bet you decided early on that you preferred one over the other. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like looking around, I was like, why is this? Oh, he's completely calling me out. And I just felt so silly, like there was a joke played on me or something, because I was like, that's exactly what I did. I kept looking at this painting, trying to find like other substance too, but like my brain just automatically kept defaulting to like, I'm supposed to choose which side I like better. If they put two women next to each other, perfectly good women, nothing wrong with either one of them in a singular sense. But when you put them next to each other, my brain goes, we are going to compare it. We are automatically going to compare it. And I just thought like how silly that was. And that has really stayed with me for years. Like I learned a huge lesson that day. So instead of like going by that painting and just thinking it was so beautiful and enjoying it, I was judging and criticizing it with instinct, just instinctually, instead of, and I was letting that take priority over the beauty of it. And I just think like, how many times am I doing that in my life? How many times am I comparing two things that were never really meant to be compared? They're beautiful in their own right, but because I've placed them next to each other, I've decided to make one better than the other, right? And that's really stayed with me for a really long time. So, Michelle, do you have a story or something that reminds you of this?
Not necessarily a specific story, but it's definitely been an ongoing issue in my life. I think that being a woman, you just end up feeling the comparison a whole lot, right? You're always constantly comparing yourself to other moms. You're comparing yourself to other professionals. You're comparing yourself. I mean, it absolutely is human nature and does apply to everybody. But for some reason, I think there's an intensity in being a female in this day and age that comes with comparison. And when we think about it, comparison really is human nature, right? It's something that we developed long ago, evolved to be able to help us identify things, help us choose between options, and the act of actually picking out the differences in things. Our brains are wired to do that. It's part of our evolutionary system to be able to see when there's, a predator hiding in the grass ready to get us.
Make quick choices, like make rapid, very quick choices.
Absolutely. Right? And the more experience that you have in life, right, the older that you get, the more time and wisdom and experience you've got in life, you tend to trust that comparison a lot more. So what I've found in my life is just that if I can start to be more mindful of when my mind is doing it, because it is an automatic function, then I can start to balance it out, right? Because it's obviously we developed it for a reason. There's no shame in being somebody that compares.
It serves us. Yeah.
Right. It absolutely serves us. It's helped us survive this long on the planet. But it has its limitations, right? If you are leading with that instinctual brain, if you are leading with that just natural tendency and doing it kind of mindlessly, it can start to kind of consume you, and you can start to feel like stressed because I'm not the same as that, or my work's not the same as this, or unless I conform to that, I'm not going to be able to get this promotion or reach that goal. And it creates a lot of stress in our lives. And so today I'm really excited about the episode because we're going to talk a lot about how to kind of counteract that and keep it in check, right? Because just like every good tool, it's not good for every purpose. And being more mindful of it and having a little bit more presence when we're using it allows us to make sure that it's not taking over, because it can cause a lot of issues when it does.
What I think is really neat is that this concept that generosity is actually a tool. And it's a concept that I've just been learning this year. Michelle, you've been helping me a lot with introducing to me the power of generosity in ways that I've never thought of using it before, and how healing it is and how powerful it is to getting you to where you want to go. And I just think it's such an incredible concept, and I'm so thrilled we're going to be sharing about it more today. We've been touching on it on a lot of our episodes, but you and I have both been super hungry to like really, really just do a whole episode on this, because it is such a cool concept, and it has really helped you and I in huge ways this whole year. What did you say?
Well, I was actually thinking while you were mentioning that as nonprofit professionals, we tend to kind of take for granted whether or not our generosity is strong enough, or our generosity is being harnessed enough, right? Because when you're in a nonprofit, you're working that life, you do tend to be doing things for people. And there is a lot of generosity kind of in your environment. And I think that, identifying, first of all, that comparison can cause issues, and that generosity is the counter to that, is counterweight. It's the thing that you can use to kind of keep comparison in check, competition in check. I think that as nonprofit professionals, we might tend to think that we are living the generous life. And I find that allows us to take for granted how much we are embracing comparison and competition. And if we really want to do big things and achieve these really lofty goals that we set as nonprofit professionals, we want to achieve this awesome vision. We want to support this amazing mission. We've got to kind of be able to recognize that it's a little harder for us to determine if we are ourselves being generous. And there's some ways that comparison and competition show up in your life. And I think that we're going to kind of talk about that a little, identifying when that's showing up, so that you can start to form a basis for how to counteract it. So I know that there's this line that you've absolutely been loving lately.
Yeah.
That you've recently learned. And it's the shoulds. It's shoulding all over the place. You find that you're saying should. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we have we've come up with 3 ways to check yourself if you're using comparison and competition in toxic ways that are just getting you through survival and not through thriving. We want your causes to be thriving, right? We don't want your cause, your organization to just be surviving through the very next campaign or the very next task. We want you to be thriving. And to do that through generosity and checking these comparison and competition type of things. So the 3 things are shoulding all over the place. Are you giving the benefit of the doubt? And the third one is hoarding the goods. So the first one, shoulding all over the place. Okay, we called it this because we hope that you can remember it a little bit. Are you saying sentences like, well, I should have already had this task done. As a marketing manager, I should be able to do this and this and this. Our organization should be at this point. Anytime you see yourself saying any sentences that start with the should, you need to filter that back through with like, who made this should rule? Who made this should rule? And like really follow that, for an example is like, okay, so like maybe the marketing manager like should know how to build an entire website too. Okay. Who said this? Who made this should rule? Who says that a marketing manager, you're one person you're one person. Should you really be doing this? Are you good enough as you are? Do you still create a lot of value for the things that you're really good at? With your organization, when you're using the shoulds, be like, why should my organization be at this point? Who said this? Who made this rule? You get to be your own journey. There are no 2 organizations alike. There are no 2 causes exactly alike. You have different people on your staff as well, right? And different people on your team as well. So it's always going to be a unique experience. So the shoulds never apply. So be checking your shoulds. And then the second one is benefit of the doubt. So using generosity, like ask yourself, am I giving this person the benefit of the doubt? Am I giving this organization the benefit of the doubt? Am I giving this team member the benefit of doubt? Are you reading emails and assuming a lot of things? Are you reading between the lines? It is none of your business to read between the lines. None. Your business is to give them the benefit of the doubt, to take things at face value, stop reading into things. So be checking yourself with that. And then the third one, I'm going to bring Michelle in here a little bit more because we talked at this hoarding the goods at length yesterday as we were like developing this episode. So yes. Michelle, tell us a little bit about what hoarding the goods mean.
So hoarding the goods it's a competitiveness, right? I know that I recognize this kind of hoarding the goods behavior when I'm kind of feeling afraid. I'm feeling afraid that somebody else is going to be better, or if we take that to another place, or they're going to win if they have the same information or the resources that I have. And it can be, it is absolutely important to, in any organization, kind of protect your intellectual property. And there are certain things that you do in certain ways. But if you find that you are like just deathly afraid that somebody's going to get your secret and put your organization out of business, they're going to take away all your donors, then it kind of shows two things. It kind of shows that you're not honoring the uniqueness of the work that you do, the work that your team does. You're not honoring the fact that you guys are doing something really special. And even if somebody created an organization that was going to do the exact same thing as you, they're not necessarily going to appeal to the exact same group of people that you will. The way that you talk about things, the parts of the problem that you are focusing on are going to be unique. And I think that, it's something a lot of organizations have a hard time, is developing that unique selling point, that unique proposition that they have for their audiences. But it's not as hard as you think, because we are doing unique things and we can't be replicated. And even if somebody tried to read the recipe for your secret sauce and come in and do exactly what you did, you need to remember that they can't do it in the exact same way. They don't have the experiences that you have. They don't have the connections that you have. They don't have the best friend at home who debriefs with you after a hard day at work and a hard day on a project, giving them advice. And the other thing is, you need to actually consider the opposite. And that is that nothing is 100% original. Your ideas are not 100% original. Your ideas are an amalgamation, just this collection of all these experiences that you have, that you are sharing with people. And those came from other people. You didn't, Julie and I have not bottled generosity as an antidote for, being too comparative and being too competitive in our lives. We've heard that. We've learned that lesson. And the reason that we feel the need to share it is because we know that it's a good reminder to have, especially when you're a nonprofit professional, especially because generosity can feel hard when you're dealing with people that you haven't built trust with, and that, we have this instinctual
it's not the easier choice. Yeah,
exactly.
It's absolutely not the easier choice. It's going to take a little effort.
So with that hoarding, if you just remember that, number one, honor your awesomeness and know that your awesomeness is not the originality of your ideas. It's your experience. It's that fabric, that thread, the threads of your life that have come together to make you who you are. That's the reason why you're in this specific place. And once we start feeling a little bit less confident about that, we've had a couple of setbacks. We've had some things that haven't gone the way that we really hoped. We might get into that comparative nature and just be like, if somebody else was doing this, it wouldn't be this way. And don't do that to yourself. Remember to be generous with yourself. I think that these 3 points that we were just talking about, Julia mentioned, the shoulding all over yourself, are you giving other people the benefit of the doubt, and are you hoarding the goods? These things really come down to, am I being generous with my thoughts for myself? Am I being generous with my thoughts for other people? Am I being generous with my belief in the abundance that more than one good cause can survive in this world? I find that if I'm struggling with being generous with myself, I can usually identify that I'm being too hard on other people too.
We know that hoarding the goods and hoarding these best practices and these techniques that help get more supporters and more donors, we know that is a symptom of scarcity mindset. And we do
Yes.
know that like a lot of causes and nonprofits are trying to make every dollar count. And so we often, unfortunately, see scarcity mindset in a lot of amazing organizations because they really are trying to stretch every penny and make sure as much goes to good people as possible, right? So we do know that this is an issue there, and we want to empower nonprofits and good causes to know that like there's enough supporters for everyone. There's enough supporters for 1 million more nonprofits. Like you don't need to make decisions off of that scarcity mindset that there's not enough supporters for you. So you're gonna hoard all the trade secrets of how you are being a successful nonprofit. Share those trade secrets generously to other charities and nonprofits and help do more goodness in the world. What if that generosity of spirit of teaching like these best practices with other charities actually does more social good than your mission? Like how cool would that be, right? We're all do-gooders, and sometimes that scarcity mindset just like really puts blinders on for us when the goal all along was to create better social impact, right? For good. And sometimes we are hindering that by hoarding the goods. There's enough abundance. I love that you brought up the abundance thing because that's something I'm really, really working on. And I have to remind myself every day that there's enough clients, there's enough good causes, there's enough. And
there's enough clients out there who are going to resonate with you, right? It's not just about it being enough overall for the different organizations out there. It's that there's enough there that are going to need to hear your message, that are going to need to hear it your way. They're going to need to see it through your lens to be able to engage with it. That experience, that personality that you've developed from all the things that you have, experienced in your life, that gives you this unique lens through which to show people why it's important. And that's that actual difference that's setting you apart. That will help you, attract people. But it doesn't mean that your competition's not going to attract people. They're going to attract people too. Just people who it's easier for them to get it when they see it through their lens. Yeah. So when we start to understand that there's one concept and 100 different ways to be presented that concept through which you may need to see it to be able to grasp it and get engaged and get on board and show up to volunteer and help with the golf tournament and pack, stuff envelopes one day. When you start to see that, then you start to see that, somebody can be involved with my organization and be involved with another organization. And,
when we start looking at them, we start shifting it from competition to comrades, right?
Exactly.
That's where the power happens.
Exactly, because what happens? So there's a couple things that happens when you start to see them as comrades. Number one, generosity improves your health. It actually reduces people's stress. There was a study through the University of California, Berkeley, that found that elderly people who volunteered for 2 or more organizations were 44% less likely to die over a 5-year period than were their non-volunteer colleagues. And that's even after they controlled for like age, exercise habit, general health, and negative health effects like smoking. 44% less likely to die. This thing where we're taking advantage and doing good things and feeling purpose in our lives, it makes us stronger. It makes us healthier. It actually reduces our blood pressure as much as medicine and exercise. And then it also lowers our overall risk for dementia, anxiety, depression, and it improves our outcomes with chronic pain management and even more. So number one, do it to be selfish because it's good for you. Number two, it's empowering to feel like you've got a bunch of people on your team. It's empowering to think, you know what? we're serving nonprofits. We're serving nonprofit professionals. We're not the only people out there serving nonprofit professionals. We just feel like there was this extra perspective that was missing from that, that we could share and engage people who were ready to be bold and brave and who just needed to be given permission. And that's not everybody's cup of tea, and not everybody's going to be on board with us, but we know they're out there, and we know there's other people serving that audience. And when we connect with them, we're going to be just really super excited to be able to work, because, you know, maybe they're going to be offering something just a little bit different, and we're having both of us affect and impact those people is going to be better for the people we're trying to impact. And that's really why we're here. So if you can take your mind, check when it's in that instinctual comparison mode, it's going to be able to get you out of survival mode, because we default to that survival mode. We've got so much on our plates. We've got 60 hours of work to fit into a 40-hour work week. We have to juggle the business of planning to do the good things with the money that's coming into our organizations, and the secondary business of actually going out and getting those donations for our business, right? It's not as straightforward as a for-profit company. You don't just have revenue coming in because of the things that you put out. There's two businesses in one there, and it can be a lot. And if you are going to be able to create space for you to breathe, for you to return to your why, for you to be present, for you to not develop compassion fatigue for the people that you're serving, you need to make sure that you're putting on your own mask first in the airplane, you know, and being generous with yourself, and thinking, you know, was I fair with myself this week? When I ran through the list of things I didn't get done, did I remember to run through my ta-da list? Did I remember to run through that list of things that I did accomplish, even and not like write that list and look at it and scrutinize and go, well, this wasn't on my to-do list. It was just like this extra thing. You did amazing things and you achieved a lot. And if you're not willing to give yourself credit for that, how are you going to give anybody credit for the work that they do? You've got to be kind with yourself first in order to set that behavior and that mindset and that practice of being able to be kind and generous to other people. And it's easy. Just know that it's normal. It's natural. It's easy to slip into survival mode. It's easy to slip into not good enough mode, but that doesn't serve you. That doesn't help you do the amazing things that you set out to do when you created the organization or joined the organization or created a whole new chapter in the organization. It's not going to help you be there and be present in that and be able to celebrate it. So give yourself a break.
I love that. I think that's really good that you're talking about that. Like, you have to be generous with yourself first. And we know that when we're more generous with ourselves and we make that the first priority, we're actually able to be more generous in our lives. We have more capacity to be generous, and we give other people permission to be generous with themselves. And it just begets more generosity. And it's so surprising how much human beings really need generosity. Like, as we've been studying generosity, we're like, this is like a human need. This is like something that was built specifically for human beings to be generous, and how many areas it bleeds into: mental health, capacity to give more, stress, connecting with other people. Like, it just goes on and on and on. And also, like, I know we've talked about this in a couple of other episodes, but like, when you're generous, you attract generous people. Generous people are not attracted to people or organizations that don't exhibit that attribute. They're not. It's a huge turnoff for them. And I'll probably say it again many, many times, because generosity is a powerhouse. All right. So the next one that we are learning about and that we're really excited about. So we've got the first, be generous with yourself. And then the second one is be generous with your thoughts. So Michelle, tell us a little bit more about what does that mean? How are you generous with your thoughts?
It's really about, especially, I find especially in moments of strife and tension in my life, or when I'm not feeling on the same page with a person, if I'm able to kind of step back from that feeling, because we're human beings, we're emotional, we can be taken over by our emotion, and that's it's totally normal. And I like to teach my kids that the difference between being an adult and being a kid and immature is that you need to start being able to be the captain of those emotions, right? Because it's okay to have all the emotions and have the whole spectrum. But when you're letting the emotions drive the ship, then you're getting out of balance. And so especially in those moments of intense emotion, I have to start asking myself, like, am I making assumptions about this person's intent? Am I reading into their tone and forgetting to give them the benefit of the doubt that the intention that they have might be good? I think that part of embracing generosity for me, and part of really practicing this in my life, is to return to that basic belief that people are good, which we really have to embrace as nonprofit professionals, right? We deeply need to embrace people are good. And it's totally natural and normal for, sometimes you're just not somebody's flavor, and sometimes they're having a bad day and they decide to take it out on you. But when we start creating that narrative in our minds where it doesn't exist, it's impacting us. It puts you under stress. It impacts your health. You're like, I hate having to deal with this person. They're always meh. And it's okay if that truly is happening, to identify it, as long as you're checking yourself to make sure it's truly happening. And I think that sometimes that instinctual part of it can allow us to kind of slip into believing that this competition, or that this person just doesn't like us, and it's usually because our brains are filling in extra information, right? We've made an assumption. We've decided that because X, they don't like me. Well, do you really know that that's true, or are you just making the assumption that that's true? Have you decided? Have you allowed your instinctual brain to fill in the information, because it needs to make sense of the things that are happening in the world? And just know that our brains are wired for risk management. They're wired to make us aware and vigilant of threats. So if we don't have all the information, it's very likely that we are going to think that this could be a threat because I don't have enough information. So I'm going to fill in that information with things that are going to keep me away from that because it makes me feel bad. But embracing generosity, remembering that people are good, and stopping to think, okay, what's the simplest explanation for why this happened? Is there an explanation besides they don't like me that could be going on here? I think that when you give people that benefit of that doubt, you find that you're more patient with people. You can be there for them through hard times that they didn't, even know they needed you there for. And that's not the same thing as being taken advantage of. That's being the kind of person that you want to attract in the outside world. And one of the things that we know from a lot of business development, from a lot of psychology studies, is that like attracts like. And if you are constantly hypervigilant and you are constantly suspicious and you are overly harsh on people, you're going to attract those kinds of people into your circle. And that's not the kind of people that are especially helpful for nonprofits. So just try to not engage in that just because you can engage in that.
Yeah, like I just really love this generosity of thought and like how powerful it is. And we did talk about the competition already, and we jumped right into that. But like, being super generous with your competition and stop looking at them like competition, and start leading the way. Start reaching out to your competition. And I actually think this is really interesting. This kind of ties into like the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about. And that's like this Bill Gates article that I read that I was sharing with you earlier about, he has one of the most successful nonprofits, and they are making some incredible strides, and with a sanitation in foreign countries and stuff like that. And they're doing some incredible things. Please check out the Bill Gates and the Bill and Linda Gates Foundation, because they're doing some incredible things. But they interviewed him, and they interviewed a whole bunch of other successful nonprofits. And specifically with him, he was talking about how they found that the best way for their foundation to be the most successful was collaborating with other foundations. That was actually their secret weapon, was collaborating with their competition. They understand the power of comrades in a cause, and how much are we limiting ourselves because we're turning our comrades into our competition. Like, we're turning our comrades into our competition. We don't need to. And we don't need to make it so dang hard on ourselves, right? Like, let go of surviving and thrive by like gathering your comrades to you. Start looking at them in the generous light, and the people you work with or your family members. These are not your competitions. These are your comrades. Your coworkers are not your competition. They're your comrades. Start treating them that way. And you're going to find yourself so much freer in your mind and so much more at peace. And you get to be more yourself when you're just exhibiting generosity in all of these areas. And also, it just takes a lot of practice. So, Michelle and I are still working on that. We talk about these subjects because these are super important and we're learning them. And by teaching you, hopefully it internalizes it a little bit more with us and we can just be a little bit more generous. And that's really, really awesome. So we've got a couple of takeaways here. Michelle, you want to do those?
So our first takeaway is just, it's human nature to engage in competition. There is no shame here. Your brain is wired to do that. And the minute that we start to feel like we're defective because we do that, then we're disempowering ourselves from engaging with it and finding ways to create more balance with that. So there's no shame in engaging in comparison or competition. It's just a matter of understanding that without being mindful of it, it will start to rule things.
Nice. And then we've got the recognize comparison. When you're engaging in it, notice that it's occurring. And generosity is a tool that will enable you to achieve higher goals. So it's not a natural attribute. It's not, we need it. We absolutely need it, but it's an essential tool.
It's a muscle you need to flex.
Yes. So be doing that. All right, Michelle, who is our do-gooder feature of the week, the month? We've got our very first do-gooder feature here, and we're very excited to share with you guys.
Yes, we are thrilled about our do-gooder for April. April is Autism Awareness Month, so we have selected the color of autism to feature and highlight this month. You'll hear us mention them in our podcast, and we should be already done with our interview for them. So definitely check that out on our podcast channel. The goal of The Color of Autism is to end the stigma of autism spectrum disorders in communities of color. They are devoted to building efficacy and empowering families in order to lessen their isolation. So it's really been kind of a hot topic this year because there have been several tragic events with Black men who struggle with autism spectrum disorders, and the mental health crisis response has not been great for them, and so we really feel that this is a very important charity to feature, and we're excited to share that with you this month.
Go check out that episode. We're very excited about it. And Camille, she is just lovely. And you're going to learn a lot of really cool things.
Yes.
All right, Michelle, what's our hype up message?
So our hype up message for today is a little sentimental for me. It actually comes from the Diary of Anne Frank, and she wrote that no one has ever become poor from giving. So remember that your fellow human beings are good people. I know we have to know that as nonprofits, but remember not to take it for granted as well. And Julia.
Among Lionhearts is a socially conscious marketing agency where we specialize in social media management and influencer marketing for the unique needs of social enterprises and charities. Let our team of experts manage your social media workload for you so you can get back to doing more good. Remember, every small act of courage, no matter how small, is not actually small at all. You, my dear, are standing among Lionhearts.